Hey guys, this is Jake Goss. In this video, we're going to be covering the 5 stages of a gamefi project and their gaming guilds. More specifically, we're going to be talking about how a gaming guild works and how it makes money, where the most profit is and how to prepare for it, and the 5 stages and how it ends, right? As people leave projects and go to more profitable projects. Just for context, I had a $250 million stable of axes that we just bred. We had 2 scholars manage that. We had around $300,000 for Levana Finance in profit in the first 3 months of the games being launched, and they're about to relaunch off of Terra to another chain. We have around 1.2 million in DeFi Kingdoms that one scholar is working on, and they're generating something like 12 new heroes every week, which is not bad. So how does a gaming guild work? Do you know what GameFi is? It's you have an NFT and the owners all mint it, right? They buy the asset and then they lease it. They can play the games themselves if it's profitable, right? And it makes more money than that they would at their current job, right? But if they lend it out to a gamer, they could pay the gamer a flat fee of maybe $2 to $3 or $4 an hour, and as long as it's profitable, they would want to keep that going, right? So in the beginning, when there's a ton of these managers and not that many players, the average revenue per scholar, we call him a scholar, having the role, we call it a scholarship, having the average revenue per scholar is going to be really high because there's not that many people playing. And the costs for these are just going to, on the platform itself, usually they'll say, hey, you can borrow this, you can borrow this. It's going to be very low for the scholar, right? Because they can hire someone on the platform, or they can hire someone outside the platform. It's a lot easier because the marketplace on these GameFi projects haven't developed yet. It's not super mature. People don't know that it's a super profitable project. But when you bring them on, the scholars that you hire can just play the game and then they'll be affordable. This is where you can hire people for $2 or $3 an hour before the game even starts. These are the first few months. But over time, you'll see that these projects start to trend to a point where there's more and more scholars because people are arbitraging the cost of labor. When labor is more in demand, like they'll find more and more scholars, it'll be more and more difficult for existing players to come in. The average income off of these scholars will go higher on these platforms because they're more in demand. They'll set their prices on their NFTs that they can borrow for at higher rates. So a gamer can come in and say, oh, cool, I'll get paid more. That's when they start to realize that, I'm getting paid $2 an hour, but these other managers are still making a ton, but they're offering $5 an hour or $6 an hour. And then that's when they leave their current manager to go, right, to someone else. That's when we see the margins and profits sort of squeeze tighter and tighter. So the managers and the owners of the NFTs make less, right? And then eventually it reaches this point where the margins get really high, but the cost of the NFTs are high. The costs to just keep it going is still high, but the revenue is still there. So they're profiting. They're still profiting. So they're still profitable. But then it reaches this point where people realize that they're taking all this energy to manage these scholars. They're kind of breaking even, and the only people that are doing well are the scholars. They're getting paid $10 an hour, and the owners, they might be getting $5 an hour or $10, but they're not making the $50 an hour that they had in the beginning. So they start to say, why don't I just go elsewhere? Why am I working all this? I'm not making that much here? My income off of these NFTs are not the same as what it was 3 or 6 months ago. And then that's when you see this exodus of all these owners leave the platform. At the very end, the scholars are still okay if they still have axes to play on because they're still getting paid high amounts. They're still getting paid more than the $2 an hour that they initially took when they first came on, right? And they're getting paid way more than their peers. But that's when the scholars might have to leave and go to another platform. So it might be even slightly more expensive to keep gamers in the same project. But that's when the average revenue per scholar is the lowest, because all the NFTs get dumped. As all the owners dump, it kind of allows more and more scholars to come in or even buy their own, because at that point, there's no middleman. They're playing the game and getting 100%. They're making $11 an hour. They're taking that $1 or $2 extra dollars in profit for themselves now, and they're happy. But now all the owners are leaving, and they're finding projects that are nearing this beginning stage here, right? They're finding this early stage. So in the beginning, there's this massive profit, and then that's when you start to see this sort of equilibrium price come together where the owners usually take the profit. And there are some projects that I work on where instead of just paying people a flat fee, the platform manages it for you. You just delegate your cash or you delegate your NFTs. And what happens is we found out that when you have a percentage of the revenue that goes to the gamer, it makes them stay in longer. It makes them okay with getting a same kind of gamer cost. It kind of flattens out this bit right here. Some of the yield goes to them, but it keeps the average revenue per scholar still high. They actually do more because they get paid more. And even if it's something as low as like they get 5% or let's say 10%, while the owner gets 90%, that's still good in the long run. In the beginning, I find projects that are in this early stage that are trying to get ready to launch, that's when the best time to get ready is you find your own scholars, you get a capacity. So for this other project here, I'll just put this project up. So for Terran DAO, we have about 500 Levana dragons, right? These 500 Levana dragons gave us a capacity to have 500 NFTs be able to be used on their platform, right? That's around like 2 or 3% of all the NFTs on their platform. And we're going to have all these scholars ready to earn this massive spread. And we're still acquiring more NFTs. Like we're still like using the slice and pie methodology to bring people together and use their capital. And our side does all the recruiting and all the management, all the work. But in the beginning, that's where you want to be. So if there's projects that are just about to mint and they have a fantastic fabric, like a really good roadmap, and like the tokenomics are just like top notch, top 1%, we go all in on those projects, get ready, and then we launch. So Levana was the only blockchain project that was incubated by the same people who made Axie, right? Delphi Labs incubated Axie. And then a few years later, now they're launching and incubating Levana. That's why we went all in on that, right? You can't bet against the successor to Axie, right? But if this makes sense, feel free to reach out, talk to me. If you like the content, just leave a comment. And let me just ask, what do you think about GameFi projects? Do you know of any others like mine that are doing a good job? Just leave them down below. But thanks for watching.